Hello, hello, and welcome to yet another episode on the Stretch Street podcast. This is the energetic AJ, and I hope that you've been good and your week has been great because mine has been. I was in a meeting just before a day before this recording, and I was telling my team I was in a meeting with to say, oftentimes we just coast along and we get into that space of autopilot that we really don't pause to just ask, like, okay, what is the dominant feeling that I have this week or that I have experienced this week, And it's just easy for when people just say, oh, how was your week? It's like, oh, great. Or, oh my God, the week was terrible. But was it really great or was it really terrible? Did you really take time to think about it? So when I ask you that question, like, I hope your week has been great, please take a moment, just pause and think like, has it been great? Has it not? Sometimes it's really good to help us articulate the most dominant emotion that we're feeling in the moment. But that being said, I really do hope that your week has been great. But if not, cheer up. It's just Wednesday. So yeah, hopefully the rest of the week is going to be great for you. All right. So welcome back to the show. As you already know, here on Stretch Street Podcast, we zoom in on challenges. And essentially the goal is to remind you that challenge you're currently going through, especially if your week has been like horrible or like not to the taste of what you wanted, that challenge is not exclusive to you. I can assure you that 100%. There are other people that are also going through a hard time. But what I want you to do and what this podcast is positioned to always do is to remind you that challenges are not exclusive to any of us. We all go through them. But when we assume the posture to ask, like, what did this challenge come here to teach me? Rather than why me, right? We begin to distill the lessons that this seemingly challenging, seasons or situations are there to teach us. And when we are able to distill them, when we then share these lessons, right, we're so valuable. We become a source of hope, a source of inspiration, a source of motivation, or a source of wisdom and insight to other people who might eventually go through that particular challenge. So I'm hoping that today's story and that conversation with my guest today is going to inspire some level of hope for you as well. So today on the show, my guest, her name is Tonya Cross, and she is the accessory designer of Accented Glory, a handcrafted fashion accessory brand. Her specialty is cowrie shell designs. Okay, we're going to find out a little bit more about that. And this cowrie shell design has an Afrocentric boho-chic vibe, and her design is so good that it has been featured on Essence, Refinery 29, and Good Housekeeping. But one fun fact about my guest today is that she is in her 50s. And I'm wondering, and I want to unpack that with her when we bring her up to say, what was the journey like, because I also know that she's been very crafty, like she's loved making things, with her hands since she was a child. So what took her so long to start her own business? We are going to find out about that in a jiffy. So don't go anywhere. Grab your cup of tea, your cup of coffee, or your bottle of water, if that is what works for you, as we get into this interesting conversation with Tonya Cross. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back.
No matter how dark the night is, the sun always rises. No matter how hard life gets, keep moving forward. You never know what amazing things are waiting just around the corner. No story is too rough and no journey is too tough. Join us on Stretch Street to be inspired by the stories of people who have been through it all and come out stronger. Stretch Street Podcast. Stretching without snapping.
All right. Hello, Tonya. How are you doing today?
Hello, I'm excited about this opportunity to speak with your audience about my journey and the challenges I have faced as a 50-year-old who decided to take a leap of faith basically and start my own brand and launch my own brand at Senate Glory. So I'm excited to share.
Ooh, I love it. I love it. There's nothing as beautiful as seeing an idea that you've carried for a while. It doesn't even matter how long or how short it is, but just the fact that you saw it in your mind's eye first and then it's now a reality. Oh my God, like that's just beautiful. That's one of the most prestigious opportunities we have as humans, right? The opportunity to dream it and experience it. And I feel like that's why when we go through seemingly failures, it's actually still a plus if we look at it
Right.
well, because at the end of the day you actually attempted to bring into life or into real life something that you thought up in your mind. So that first step is actually a success in its own. So whether that idea or the manifestation of it or the creation of it then lasts long or not, that's another phase of the journey, you see. And that's why when you see people who are really, really successful today, they've had more failures than those who are afraid to, like, oh my God, I tried once and it didn't work, so that's it, right? So I'm super excited for you too. But before we dive into your journey, I'd love for you to tell us one fun thing about you.
One fun thing about me is that I love popcorn. Popcorn is my favorite snack. My husband teases me because I am a part of a popcorn club where I
Wow.
receive in the mail a different flavor of popcorn.
Really?
Yes. So I love
Wow.
popcorn. Popcorn is my favorite snack. If I could, well, I can, but I don't. But if I choose to eat it every day, I could, but I,
Wow.
but I don't. But I love popcorn. Yes,
That's
that's a fun
interesting.
fact.
When was the first time you realized or you discovered this love?
But it all started with my first daughter. I'm the mother of three adult daughters. So with my first pregnancy, I craved popcorn, and that craving continued for the next. Because my oldest daughter is 31, so for the
Wow.
past 31 I love popcorn, and the interesting thing about that is my daughter. My daughter loves popcorn as well, and so she craved it during her pregnancy, and now her baby girl. She has two daughters herself now. They love popcorn too. So popcorn
This
is
man.
just like in our genes or something. So
Oh my goodness.
yes.
Wow, now that is a true fun fact. Whoa. Whew, I'm sorry, but I just feel like I want to
No,
dig
you
one more
fine.
step deeper. So what's your favorite flavor of popcorn?
I'm a traditional kind of girl. My favorite is cheddar and movie flavor, but I do experiment, at different flavors, like because they come in a variety of flavors, like puppy chow, which is kind of like a chocolate powdered sugar flavor. Yeah, I'm not really into the sweet popcorns. I prefer
Mm,
like the savory, spicy kind. Yeah, that's my preference. And of course, the
wow.
traditional butter movie cheddar. Yeah.
Wow. Nice, nice. I'm just like my curiosity wouldn't allow me be like, okay, if this is so I'm
Like
just gonna leave
popcorn
it.
is a culture. Like there is a culture of popcorn lovers out there. We're
Wow,
out
that is such an
there.
interesting discovery. Oh my gosh. Okay. Thanks for sharing. Coming back to your story, Tonya, you are currently in your 50s.
Mhm.
And when was that time when you started your business? And what was the first thought that kind of ignited this journey to this path you're on now as a business owner?
It was in my late 40s. And what sparked it was a need. I had decided and chosen to start wearing my hair natural. Um, and in that, I had a difficult time finding hair accessories that were not natural hair friendly because my designs, I started out creating hair accessories and then I expanded to jewelry and handbags. But hair accessories was where I started. And I couldn't find it. And I was sharing that with a friend. And she's like, well, why don't you just make it? At the time, not knowing that if I was having that problem, that other people was having the same problem. So what ended up happening, people started asking me, like family and friends, well, can you make me what you made yourself? Of course I will. And then they was like, I'll pay you. So
Oh,
I was
wow.
like, okay, and didn't really think about it. And then it just kind of snowballed from there. So I was like, okay, if my spirit influence, people within my spirit influence is having this problem, it gotta be other people out there having
Mm,
the same problem. So I another leap of faith, I just say, I'm gonna just put some of these items on Estes, which is
mm,
a handcrafters selling platform, and see what happens. And things started selling, and I was like,
wow.
okay. Because a lot of people say, oh, it takes at least months, years before you start selling products and stuff, and people start buying. And yeah, so I say I'm on to something here. So that's basically how it all started. It started out of a need. Um, I couldn't meet my need in the traditional retail setting, so I created what I needed.
And then what you needed happens to be what a lot of other people needed as well.
That, yes, correct.
So beautiful, so beautiful. Such a typical and very essential part of being an entrepreneur is basically solving problems, and that's what you discovered. Now, it's almost like you are an accidental businesswoman.
Yes, it was accidental. For sure. Because, and another reason why I feel like I didn't embrace the creative side of myself is
Mm,
because being raised as a black woman in America is just like, how our parents encourage us, go to college, go to school, get you a job, that's gonna provide an income from you, that's gonna sustain you, provide a certain lifestyle from you. And I bought into it, and that's what I did because
mm.
professionally, for my 9 to 5, I'm a pharmacist. I
Oh,
went to pharmacy school, got my pharmacy degree, practiced pharmacy for over 30 years.
wow.
Just recently,
Mm,
what I decided to do was I cut my work week back so I can focus more on my brand Accent and
right.
Glory and just explore the creative side of who I am.
Mm.
And it's been an interesting year because it's been a full year. I cut my work week back to one day.
Oh, wow. So you go to work only
Yes,
once a week.
right. Just one day a week. Another leap of faith. Because I was like, I have no idea what's going to happen. So my first year was up this a few months ago, and I sat back, reflected, evaluated, how my life was different, what I need to do, what I need to shift to adjust and scale and have
Right.
more success
Mm.
and what I'm doing. But yeah, I started out at 50. At 50, I cut it back to 4 days. So and my husband was like, you gonna cut back a day each? So I just gradually started cutting back. But I just felt like it was time for me to do something that I was passionate about, if that
I
makes
love
sense.
it. I
Yeah.
love it. I love
Yeah.
it. Like this is the bane of, what I represent and what I want to actually also still represent, because it's still in my coaching journey. This are the type, like, you're almost like a finished work of what I want women to see, because my message is really, as a coach, directed to women 40 and above. When you
Mhm.
hit that age 40, you begin to have all these thoughts like, oh my God, it's either there's an awakening or there's just this absolute depression. Like, what have I done all these years?
Right.
40, 4 decades in, and I still don't have life figured out. And, it's easy to kind of discount all the different works that you've done, even though it's not hit the mark that you probably have created for yourself. But it's easy to just sit in that space and just be dejected and feel like a failure when there is this vast opportunity still lying ahead of you. Fine, I know, okay, maybe at 40 you're feeling, oh God, how much more time do I have? But I have come to believe that it's better to think about, if I'm going to stay in the next 10 years, am I
Yeah.
going to allow what the last 40 years has been disrupt me or disturb me or stop me from experiencing what could be in the next
Right.
10 years, right? So I really love the story. And you started at 50. Now, what was going through your head? What was your journey like before you got to that point? And what was that breaking point? That, I mean, you've already said part of it, but outside of, on the mindset level, outside of, this is a problem that you saw and you started to solve it for yourself and other people
Mhm.
started to ask, on the mind level, what had to break or what had to shift for you to start taking these little leaps that you started taking, cutting back on work, and then working and focusing on this business to grow it?
Right. Um, Initially, I have to be honest. Initially, I was like, "Girl, have you lost your mind?" Like every 2 weeks you're gonna get this check because you go in, you perform a service, you get compensated for the service. If you do this, you're gonna have to create and generate your own revenue.
Mm,
And let me say this. Let me be clear about this. I do understand that it is a privilege to have a partner, a spouse that able to support my household without my income. So that is a privilege. That's a privilege that
mm,
everybody doesn't have, and
right.
I understand that that's a privilege. But it still was difficult because you become accustomed to a certain lifestyle, um, and accustomed to kind of like a guarantee, if that makes sense. You're gonna get paid. So that was a struggle for me, and you're right. It definitely, I had to have a shift in my mindset that I have to be rely on myself and what I can do for myself, and my determination, my commitment, my gifts, my talents. I have to trust me, basically. um and it definitely was a challenge for sure. And then turning over, you know I don't wouldn't say it was ego, but it was just this level of, now I gotta depend on somebody else, if that makes sense, when I'm used
Right.
to sustaining myself.
Yourself, right,
Yeah.
right. So did you encounter any thoughts, maybe conversation, books, or something that just helped you make that shift seamlessly? Or was just like you reflecting and just internalizing and say, you know what, this is what it is, and I just have to do this now?
Yeah, yes, I did. I had a conversation with my husband because my husband is also an entrepreneur. He made the shift from corporate to owning his own business, doing his own thing like 20 years ago. Right. So basically, my income, my salary carried our family while he built his business, grew his business, and all that stuff. And basically, he just said, "Honey, it's your turn."
Oh, so
You
sweet.
supported me when I decided to leave corporate America because he worked for Polo Ralph Lauren. I was a corporate wife. I it was amazing, right? And then he decided this is what I want to do. But it's not like we jumped into it. We had a plan. We had like a 5-year plan. This is how we're going to transition into this.
Mm,
And
mm.
we did. And now, at this point, he says, your turn. It's your turn. I got you.
Oh,
And so that really was the thing that said, okay, do this. This is
oh wow.
something people pray for, and desire.
Absolutely.
And it's right
Absolutely.
here being given to you, girl. Embrace it. Just
Mm,
embrace it.
I
Embrace the
love it.
opportunity. And that's what I
Wow.
had to do, embrace the opportunity.
Oh, I love, 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 love it. As you were saying that saying that kept ringing in my head was one good turn deserves another, and I mean, this is not typically in the conversation we're having, but sometimes you never know when a teaching moment just pops up. And for me, I'm like I am training myself to be very, very aware of those little teachable moments and don't let them go. I just want to pop one of those in here, especially for women. So dear women, if you're listening, and I know, like she said, like Tonya said, it's a blessing, and I'm grateful that she recognizes it as a blessing and a privilege. But this is what we talk about when we say it's a partnership. Marriage is a partnership. Of course, there's always an exception to every rule, but naturally, when you are there for your partner, when it is time for them to be there for you, it happens. It just becomes, like a natural thing, right? And it's for me, my lesson that I'm just going to quickly share here as we continue the conversation is that the understanding and the communication that went into it, like, this is what we want to do. This is how long it's going to take for us to transition. This is what needs to change in the dynamics of how this family is run while this is happening for us to get to that destination. And just that agreement made it so, I mean, I'm sure it was with a lot of challenges, but because there was communication and agreement, you were able to pull through all the barricades and jump all over the walls and break down, barriers to get to where you are today. And I just want to say, dear women, please, please, as much as you have it in your capacity, just believe in that man that is by your side, and support him when it is necessary. But I also know that sometimes men also don't know how to accept support, or they don't know how to kind of shift the responsibility. And so when there is a purpose or a reason or a situation for them to, like, okay, I don't have what, you take over. It's almost like it's a dent to their ego, and they just can't handle it. So they'll rather just break everything off than have that kind of dynamic. So I'm speaking to you, if you're a man or a woman, to just say it's a partnership. Please, it can work if you make it work. All right. I'm just going to come back to you, Tanya, but thank you for sharing that part of your story, because it is important for us to also know, it's important for us to recognize the advantages that we have in our different situations and leverage them. You had to embrace yours at some point. Yeah. So if you're going to highlight, what was the biggest challenge now that you had the support from your husband and you had this request already coming in from others, like, hey, I love this. Can you do for me? I'm ready to pay for it. In running the business, what was your biggest challenge or challenges that you want to highlight for anybody who's just starting out a small business now and they're probably facing that type? And they could get some inspiration and encouragement from you.
My biggest challenge was becoming the face of my brand because I hid behind my logo, and my oldest daughter, who is a communications PR major, was like, Mom, you're gonna have to stop hiding behind your logo. And I really feel like the reason I did, because I was older, and I was just like, once people find out I'm a older woman, oh, they just purchase from me, And my daughter's like, no, people purchase from people they resonate with. Because at the end of the day, mom, people can get hair accessories from anywhere. Everybody, anybody, and a lot of people are selling hair accessories, but people going to choose to purchase from you because of who you are.
Bless
And
your daughter. Bless God. Bless your daughter.
and that was my biggest challenge. Because a lot of people find it hard to believe, but I am an introvert at heart. I'm okay being behind the scenes. I'm okay not being out front. I'm fine with that. I'm comfortable with that. When I am out front, when I'm not behind the scenes, physically, mentally, emotionally, spiritually, it really drains me. I have to replenish myself. I have to restore myself. Like when I do in person events or in person engagements, after they're over and I get home, my husband have my comfort things for me. I put on my onesie, my popcorn to just help me replenish and
Recover.
restore myself because he
Mm,
already knows that those type of activities takes
yeah.
a lot out of me because
Mm,
I am an introvert at heart. But over the years, what I've learned to do is to turn that switch off and on because I realize in order for my business to be successful, I have to put myself out there. I have to be visible. I have to engage. I have to touch, feel, interact, network with people. And I've accepted that that's just a part of being a business owner, and that's something I have to do and find ways to replenish and restore myself so I can go back out and do it again.
I love it. Oh my
Yeah.
God. Like, oh my goodness. Tanya, you're, oh my God. You. You're hitting all the pain point and touch point. Honestly, I know, like, that's one of the biggest challenges that, older women 40 and above have, especially if they've not had any opportunity to be at the fore
Hmm.
all up until then. So they're like, oh my God, they feel like there's the fear of judgment, there's the
Right.
fear of rejection, there's the fear, oh my God, I can't afford to fail at this age. I feel
Right.
like I feel like the general saying like, "Oh, a fool at 40 is a fool forever," keeps ringing in the heads of many people. Like, I cannot afford to be a fool at this age. What if it doesn't work? But at least if my face is heated, if it doesn't work, nobody knows, you know? But
Right.
but that's the thing, like you said, and like you eventually found out that especially the way the world is going, the change in technology, the change in consumer behavior, it's just people want to know, like, and trust people that they do business with.
Hmm.
And as humans, we are intrinsically drawn to stories. So when we
Right.
know your story, we're able to resonate more. I feel like any 40-year-old plus woman listening to you right now who has been considering, like, oh my God, should I do this? This is something I'm passionate
Mhm.
about. They can say, oh my God, if Tonya did it, maybe I just need to find out what works for me. And that
Mhm.
could inspire them, right? That's the essence of you sharing your story and going on podcast to just share this bit of your journey to inspire other people to take the leap of faith. I remember in the first half of the session, you kept mentioning that phrase, a leap
Yeah.
of faith. You took a leap, you took a leap to get into the business, you took a
Mhm.
leap to cut down on work, you
Mhm.
know, and it was a leap because it was gradual. You didn't just
Right.
cut off from work
Right.
completely,
Right.
even though
Right.
you have a support system, right? And
Hmm.
that's another learning, a moment there. Like, there should be a trend. Well, there shouldn't, but consider. there's no shoulds. Consider a transition
Hmm.
period. And
Right.
there's a thing as that. Nobody, not even God, if I may say, expects you to change just like that. It's not magic.
Right.
There was,
Because even God,
yeah,
it took him 7 days. That was his transition.
you
So
know,
right, right,
yeah.
right,
And it took Jesus 33 years to
right,
fulfill the one single purpose he came to the earth for.
right.
Right.
It's a
So,
transition.
yeah,
Everything's a transition, right? Mhm.
absolutely. But thank you. Honestly, your story is it, I don't know how to explain it. It feels simple but very profound at the same time. And I don't know, maybe it's because of my heart for women in the older
Mhm.
age. Just like, this is an example. Oh my goodness. So if I were to ask you now to say, what are some lessons? You've mentioned some, but I just like to draw it out again. And I
Mhm.
love when you said at the beginning that you clocked 1 year just a few months ago and decided to reflect, what do I need to let go, what do I need to change so that I can scale and be better. So if you were to highlight some lessons that you want to leave with anyone listening, especially women, from your journey, what would those life lessons be?
Show yourself grace because for me, it was so funny. My husband's like, Tanya, it was only a year. What did you expect? Did you expect to be a millionaire in a year? Because I was just like, oh my goodness, I thought I would have done, because in my mind, I equated more time to more sales. In my mind, that's how I
Ah,
equated it.
mm,
And when I didn't reach my sale goal, I was like, I felt like I failed.
mm,
Really, I'm gonna just be honest. I felt like I failed, and he's like, Tanya, it was only a year. It was only a year. And just like we already shared, it's a process and it's a progression and it's how you build. So, what I learned is that through that reflection of that year, that I need to increase my audience. I need to reach more people. And that's why I'm grateful for opportunities like this to get my story out so more people will be aware of my brand, of the type of products and services that I do provide, because the broader audience I have, that's at the top of my sales funnel is my
right,
audience. Once I build that and increase that, then that will trickle down into more sales. So
right.
that was the lesson I learned when I sat down and reflected. And also, you have to know your numbers. I know that's not the pretty part and the fun part of business,
I know.
but it's essential
Right.
because you got to know your numbers and what that looks like, so like I said, so you know what's working, what's not
Mm.
working, and what's working, just do more of that.
One other thing that I would say from what you shared just now about the lessons that you've learned is to be clear about what our success metrics are. Just like when you said, you were you what you equated your sales to is the time spent. So it's almost like that was not the right metrics
Hmm.
to set for yourself, and so you're
Exactly.
definitely going to have a wrong result at the end of the day, right? So it's like, be clear on your success metrics, and knowing essentially that every step towards the bigger goal is actually a success. So we don't have to wait for the end to
Mhm.
celebrate. Every single step that takes us closer is part of the success. Wow. Tonya, I must say, I'm delighted, to have had you on the show, and thank you for being like an example, a classic example to women out there to say, age is truly a number. It's all in the
Mhm.
mind. Once you put your mind to it, you definitely can do anything. So, what would your last words be for any woman listening to this right now? What would you say to kind of boost them, boost their confidence, or
I would say not to be cliche, but it is. I would say just do it because my thing has been I never want to ask myself what if. What if I would have did this or what if I would have done that? I would be able to say yes, I tried it. I may fail, I may not, but you never know until you try. So just do it. Just do it. Just do it. Mhm.
Go get a Nike today. Just do it. All right. So if people wanted to connect with you to follow your work, how would they do that? And then I'll ask you one last question because something just popped in my head right now. But if people wanted
Okay.
to connect with you, how do they do that?
Okay. I am on all the social media platforms. My handle is the same across the board. I make it very easy for people to find me. You can find me at Senate Glory, which is my brand's name. So it's the same across the board. My website is www.atsenatglory.com. But I make it simple and easy. That's where you can find me. I sell on Amazon and Estes, so you can also purchase from me online as well at those two places. Mhm.
Fantastic. So that last question was why cowries?
Oh my goodness. What? This is a great, this is how that happened. I was initially drawn to the shell without any understanding or the history or the significance of the shell. So what I ended up doing was some research. I did some research and just got an understanding, and then I realized why I was drawn to the cowrie shell, because with the cowrie shell, it has African roots, and it has a significance within the African culture. I learned that it was the first form of money known to mankind. It was used for bartering, exchanging products and services. I've learned that it has um, femininity and fertility, and the interesting thing about it is when a lot of my reviews, my customers say how the design made them feel. And they are always like, oh, when I put it on, I feel like a queen. And I was like, yes, that's it. The shell is doing what it's supposed to do, because it's like a channeling of an energy for them. And plus, I think another thing though is that because creating things by hand gives me joy and peace, I believe that positive energy is passed on to each design that I create. And I think people feel that as well when they wear my designs. So,
Right.
but yeah, that was the draw. Just that link to the diaspora, the African diaspora across the world, and how it just connects, that shell connects all of us
What part of
together.
Africa are you connected to?
You know what? I don't know, and I need to find out.
Yeah, please.
I definitely need to find out, because I'm thinking that connection is gonna add to that story.
Right. I think so too. I think so too. Oh, nice. But one thing that I don't know, this wouldn't leave me. So let me just put it out there. When you
Okay,
think about scaling, these are handmade, crafts.
right,
How does
correct.
scaling look like in that sense? Because it's just one you. Yeah, how were you thinking about that?
Yes, it is only one me. That occurred in that year evaluation as well, and what that would look like, because and my husband and I had a conversation. um initially what I would do was just contract out some services, some parts of it that's not necessarily more time consuming and necessarily that I don't enjoy doing, but I have to do because it's a part of creating. Just start contracting out those services first. That's where we said we would start, is contract out the services. And then once it scaled beyond that point, then I end up having to
Then you
hire.
consider, right,
Right,
right, right.
hiring
Okay.
somebody, but definitely, but I've already experienced some contracting out services, and so far the experiences have been good because sewing, even though I know how to sew, is still not one of the things I enjoy doing.
Right.
So was willfully willing to contract out that
Right,
part of
right,
it
right, right,
and
right.
that service. But yeah, that's what that would look like. But right now, I have a schedule of how I do things. So
Mm,
that way I'm not constantly chasing my tail. Like certain days
right.
of the week, I create certain designs. So that way I always have inventory
Mm,
available
mm.
and inventory to sell. So I have a schedule. And plus, in that schedule, let me also say this, it's a day of rest.
Rest.
Um,
Yes.
where I
It's
have a
got to be
day where
there.
I don't do anything. I do whatever I want to do. And most of the time it involves eating popcorn, watching a mindless TV, watching a movie, binging
A
something, just
series.
something, right? Just something to just get away from that. But I do
Right.
have, I had to create structure for
Mm,
myself,
mm.
a schedule for myself. So certain days I make certain designs, then I rest. And then I also have a day where I can just be creative, and just think of new designs, something new,
Right,
something different.
right.
Yeah, so
Love it.
keep that creativity part
Going.
in there. Right.
So
Yeah, yeah.
beautiful. You have done well. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for
Thank you.
sharing your gift with the world. And just please help me extend my greetings to your husband and your daughters, because it takes a whole village to make
It
this
does.
work. And yeah,
Yeah.
they all play the part in it. And so we're grateful for them, but grateful for you for saying, okay, I'm going to step into the shoes and we're going to make this work. So congratulations to you. Keep
Thank you.
shining, keep being beautiful, keep having this very lovely, it's almost like a happy aura around you.
Oh,
So
thank
keep
you.
keep
Thank
having
you.
that. Well done. And thank you for coming on the show. All right. Guys, I really do hope that you've had a good time on the show today. I did. And I'm just like my chin are hurting because I'm smiling so much. Because Tanya's story here just exemplifies, it's almost like it's a picture of what I have in mind, but in reality of what could happen to women who are aged 40 and above. And I'm really hoping that every woman who is in that age range who listens to this podcast, that something will spark in you. And if you ever need to just run your ideas or just speak or just get some level of clarity, please reach out to me, okay? Reach out to me, and let's book a clarity session or a coaching session, and I could, support you in walking through whatever it is in your head. One thing I can leave you with is that idea, that picture you see, it is valid. And that's why you're seeing it. So don't be too hard on yourself about not understanding how to transition or to transform it into reality. You could need help, okay? So reach out if you do need that help, and I'm happy to help and support you. Thank you, Tonya, for being a part of the show. Till I come your way again next week with another story to tell you that challenges are not exclusive to any of us. We all go through them. But when you assume the posture to say, what is this here to teach me? Then you learn, and then you become a teacher as well. Because then when you share, you're a blessing to others, just like Tonya has been a blessing to me today. Thank you, and I'll talk to you next week. Bye bye.